and welcome to the Armourer with me, Blue, today, and I just wanted to share my views on the world's meta right before going there, and talk a little bit about the tier list, essentially. So, yeah, let's get started. First I'm going to put like the most unplayable heroes in my opinion, simply because there's straight up better options in the same class. For Rathe, there's Uzuri, for Riptide, there's Azalea, for Viserai, there really isn't anything right now. Right? The best other rune blade currently is Vincent, and Vincent is not much better, but at least we have seen Vincent's play at tournaments, and I don't think I have seen any Viserai. Teku Vossen is also just incredibly hard to make work currently. And you're better off playing any of the other three Mechanologist heroes right now. Next, I kind of want to set up the baseline for the S tier, for the best heroes this meta. The best hero technically is going to be Dromai. I'm not sure if she's the best hero, but she's definitely going to be the most popular and the most represented. She's definitely the perceived best hero. I'm saying I'm not sure she's the best hero because, like, if you compare the past few tournaments and the results and the conversion rate of Dromai in those past few tournaments, outside of Dallas, I believe, it's not way too convincing, right? Like, even in the few tournaments we have gotten after Lexi has rotated out. So yeah, that's why I'm not sure about like how much exactly is she S tier. But like I guess she's still S tier, is just not going to be as dominant or prevalent as Lexi and previous S tier decks have been. Reasons for her being S tier is because she can technically deal with everything else on the list, and she's like she has like very good matchups, and her worst matchups are like not that bad. Matchups that are kind of bad for her are Icelander. Icelander is kind of 50-50 a lot of the time, right? Like a lot of the Dromai decks currently are going to be going for the stone builds, and they're going to be very focused on red cards. They're not going to be having a lot of blues, and in those situations you can really slow down Dromai's turns and also basically deal the full amount of damage with Icelander, because there's going to be like close to no AB and close to no resources to pay that AB off. And things like Blizzard are also going to be very devastating. The upside for Dromai is that she basically has cards and combos that if Icelander does not answer immediately, she's just going to lose the game, right? The dragon that says you cannot play during my turn, Tomel type popping her boots, and so on. Even though like losing her boots is not that bad in this matchup, because of Dromai practically not being able to pay any of your arcane damage, and also you being able to stop a lot of her advances. But it's still kind of like 50-50, but like having 50-50 against the best deck is kind of good. Next I'm going to put Katsu. In my opinion, a lot of people are underestimating Katsu. And in a lot of these tournaments we have seen they're mostly in America, and we have seen close to 0 Katsus. And I believe the Europeans and the Polish people are going to be bringing Katsus. They have been doing so continuously for like other metas as well, and now when like the perceived best deck, the most popular deck, is an extremely good matchup for Katsu, I see absolutely no reason for why you won't play it. Katsu with your Icelander is also kind of fine in my opinion, simply because Katsu is a deck that can quite comfortably be aggressive on like 18 to 20 blues, which is quite a lot. It's quite a lot, and it's going to allow you to go through these blizzards and so on if you need to, somewhat consistently. So yeah, next I'm having Bravo. I'm going to put Bravo in A tier. Despite seeing a big surge in popularity in the past like tournament or two, I'm not a big believer in Bravo. The reason why I'm not a big believer in Bravo is because I don't think he has a particularly good matchup into the other 3 decks, right? In my opinion, ninjas can high roll over Bravo. Bravo can high roll over them, that's also true. But in a bit of a longer game, ninjas are going to just win. That's just my experience. Obviously, it matters who you ask on the spectrum, right? Like if you ask Katsu players, they're going to be like, yeah, we're winning. If you ask Bravo players, they're going to be like, yeah, we're stomping Guardians. But like the overall consensus from like previous meta has, I believe, always been that ninjas at the end of the day are like a little bit favored against Bravo. Dormai and Icelander, we have seen and have been shown in like quite a bunch of tournaments so far that they are favored into Bravo. So yeah, but like despite that, I still feel like he has game into into all 3 of these, and he's just better than like the rest of the field. Next, I'm going to put Azalea here. Azalea is going to have a tough matchup against Bravo, especially if the Bravos are popular enough so that they want to bring some unmovables or something like this for the mirror, because it's also going to be very useful for Azalea as well. Azalea is going to be very good against the Icelanders, which, despite in my opinion being one of the best decks here, is probably not going to see that much play, but even then, Azalea is going to be very good against Icelander. It's going to be very good against Katsu, and it's going to feel like a little bit bad against Dormai and Bravo, but we have seen Azalea win against Dormai multiple times, and if they go for like this lower on defenses builds with tomes and so on, like Azalea is going to have like a little bit better of a chance, and also Bullseye Bracers pack. So yeah. Next, in A tier, I'm going to have Dash. Dash, in my opinion, with like a pistol build, can have like a very good chance against Dormai, a very good chance against Bravo, and on the aggression side, she should be able to deal with like the other 3, at least in like 45-55 ratio. So yeah, she's just good in my opinion, and like the versatility of this deck is going to also play a big part of why it's good in a new meta, right? Like in a new meta where everyone's playing everything and no one's like too sure what's the best thing, having a versatile deck is definitely going to be very good in my opinion. And next up we have Dash IO, which I'm going to put in B tier. We did see this deck perform extraordinarily well in Melbourne, but I do not think we will see it perform that well again, or at least soon. Like we have had like some battle hardened and PTI events since, and she has not converted at all on those events. And I just don't think she kind of like fits the meta that well, right? Like if you high roll on her consistently, and if people are maybe unaware of what she does exactly, you can probably have the same success. But yeah, I'm not that big of a believer in Dash IO currently. Next, Reiner. Reiner is actually quite well positioned. Reiner into Azalea, Dormai, Bravo and Icelander is going to be very good. He's going to be losing against Katsu and Ninja as a whole, maybe even against both dashes, right? Like brutes do not really do well against aggro in my opinion. And the reason why I'm not putting him higher despite him being well positioned into this meta is mostly because I feel like Brute is one of these decks that can like very easily lose to itself, despite having like a favorable matchup on paper. Next I'm going to put Fi. I'm putting Phi in here for a single reason. And that reason is, if we assume ninjas are an S tier class, right? Like if we assume ninjas are just very good because they beat Bravo, because they can probably like raise both of the dashes because they have like a free matchup into Dromai, or at least a very favorable matchup into Dromai, and can kind of be okay into Icelander if they manage to play enough blues. Then in that situation I feel like in the mirror Katsu is better, simply because he has more and more powerful on-hit effects, and his attacks attack for more and are like harder to block, and he does more with less cards. And in terms of like his performance against other decks, he has more 3 blocks, so he's just a little bit better into Azalea and Bravo in my opinion. He has things like the Gust Wave, which can allow him to like kill dragons and draw 2 cards instead of 1, which is going to make him like even better against Dromai. And he's a deck that can also a lot more comfortably, in my opinion, play more blues compared to Phi. And that's the reason why I'm putting him here. It's simply because I feel like his counterpart matches a lot better into the field. And if you're going to be playing Ninja, in my opinion, you should play Katsu. Next I'm going to put Uzuri. I'm putting Uzuri in B tier despite being an Uzuri enjoyer myself. The reasoning for that is because you have a kind of very tough matchup into Icelander and Dromai. Both of these decks you have to side heavily against, and you have to have kind of like perfected your game plan and your like just play overall in order to have like a good enough chance of beating them. And even then it's kind of an uphill battle. It's definitely not impossible. As we have seen in Melbourne, Ben, I believe, showed us that it's definitely not impossible, right? Like he beat like 1 or 2 Dromais, 1 or 2 Icelanders, some of them even on stream, and locally I have been doing well against those decks as well. Definitely one of the factors, in my opinion, for like doing well against those decks is my opponent having close to no idea how to play against Uzuri. And yeah, and against the other matchups she has like good Bravo, Azalea and Katsu matchup, and if the dash decides to go tanky pistols, it's probably even more unwinnable than Icelander and Dromai at that point. So yeah, it's kind of a 50-50. It's kind of a 50-50 spread between like the matchups in S and A tier, which are about to be kind of like the most popular, or like the perceived by me most popular decks towards. So yeah, we'll see. We're basically flipping a coin here. And next, in my opinion, are going to be Sea Heroes. Vincent is just better than Viserai. The Warriors, in my opinion, are kind of bad, both of them. Bolton technically has like okay matchup against Dromai, even though on stream we have seen Boltons lose again and again against Dromais. Warrior as a whole, I believe, has kind of a horrible matchup against Icelander as well as against Bravo. So already like 3 of these are kind of bad, and like the other 3 I'm not convinced are good in any way, shape or form. Max just feels like worse than both dashes right now, but better than Teku, and that's about it. We have seen one Max kind of like top 8 in Melbourne, I believe, but like that's about everything we have seen from this hero, and I'm like not that big of a believer in the Mechanoid plan as a whole. You know, it's definitely how they're playing him, and it's like it adds some of the versatility that something like Dash has, but I feel like Dash's versatility is just way better on both sides of the spectrum. Kano is always going to be in C tier, in my opinion. It's like it's just Kano, right? Like, it's a deck that can very easily lose to itself, and it's also a deck that can very easily win through absolutely everything. But right now there's like a much better wizard on average that you can play. Next we have Levia. Levia I'm putting in C simply because it feels like Reiner is doing way better currently than her, which is kind of sad to say, especially when we had like an entire set aimed to try and help Levia overperform Reiner, and she kind of did for like a week or two, and we are now back at Reiner stopping events left and right and just using the power of Intimidate and like direct damage against these sort of defensive decks, where Levia cannot really do the same because her attacks are actually blockable, and if she messes up she kind of dies to herself. And lastly we have Prism. Prism is, in my opinion, kind of like way too polarizing. I feel like there's almost no way you're winning against the Dromai. It's going to be an uphill battle to win against Katsu and the Dash. And you can probably, if you go for like a more aura focused defensive style of build, you can probably go for like an 80% win rate into like Azalea, Bravo and Icelander. But that being said, you're definitely going to be seeing some B-tier heroes as well, and the B-tier heroes are all kind of like aggressive as well, so kind of like going for that like defensive war build is going to get immediately punished by like everything that's not like these three decks. And then again, once you're kind of like, you can't win against Dromai. So it's a deck that definitely has a niche, and I feel like it's always going to remain as this deck that has this niche where it's like very good against some of these lower decks. But on the same hand, it's not as good as it used to be, right? Like, you're going to be very good into a Bravo, but if the Bravo kind of like dominates you in the right time, he can kill you before you manage to set up, right? Like, you're starting with less health, your setup is like harder, you need more turns in order to kill after your setup is ready. You do not produce spectral shields which kind of used to cover your health up in last Prism. So yeah, that's about it. I guess kind of like the hottest take is Katsu being an S tier, but this is kind of a European meta prediction. So yeah, that's it. Bye bye, and please subscribe.